Hi, I'm T1J.
Follow me.
I'm really hesitant to get involved in the whole how many genders are there conversation because it kind of reminds me of the whole black people can't be racist conversation, in that there's basically a lot of people talking past each other and no one's really making any attempt to understand what someone else is trying to say. And in the middle of all that, there are people who are just being hateful, I guess just because they can or because it gives them views or whatever. At the end of the day, you don't get to tell someone else that their personal identity is wrong. That's literally incoherent. That's not how personal identity works. Like if I tell you I'm a Packers fan, you don't get to say, you're not a Packers fan. You don't live in Wisconsin. You're not a real Packers fan. You're just saying that for attention. That's not how that works. Like, I get to decide. You don't get to decide for me. I think a lot of this is based entirely on the presumption that gender and sex are the same thing, or that they're dependent on each other, which isn't true. And maybe it's just me, but to me it seems like it's obviously not true. Even as a cis person, I feel like my identity as a man has very little, if anything, to do with the fact that I have a penis. But I actually kind of talked about that already. You can go watch that video if you want. This video is specifically about pronouns. And this is another video where I talk about an area in my own life that I feel like I should improve on. Maybe you don't think you need to work on this yourself, and if so, you can watch, but you just carry on with your life. It's cool. But sometimes we get up in front of the camera and present ourselves as these like morally perfect sages with perfect advice, but we all have things we're working on, and I personally decided to share some of those things with you. Now, like probably most people, I've been conditioned to assume people's gender based on their appearance. And to be honest, I don't think this is completely unreasonable, because gender is very closely related to gender roles. And gender roles include outward appearance and outward presentation. So if I see someone and my brain perceives it as a man, then I automatically think he, and if I see and I think it's a woman, then I automatically think she. And the majority of the time, this works out fine. But as I experience more trans and gender non-conforming people, it's become more important to me to not misgender people through the wrong use of pronouns. But I found it a challenge, not only because I don't and can't know someone's preferred pronouns until they tell me, but also because, like I said, I'm conditioned to react to people's appearance. And this is actually pretty intriguing, because for me, it's not hard to see a trans person who quote unquote passes for the gender that they identify as and to use the correct pronoun. Even if I know that they're trans, I guess their appearance just sits well with my preconditioned brain. But there are people who struggle to pass, or who have no desire to pass, or who are non-binary, so the concept of passing doesn't even apply. And in those situations, my instinctive reaction is not always correct. And even though I have a genuine desire to be respectful and inclusive, my initial involuntary impulse is often to use the wrong pronoun based on what I'm looking at. Another interesting situation for me is my reaction to people who aren't trans but still gender non-conforming, particularly men who cross-dress. And this is also kind of weird because it seems to contradict what I just said about passing, but I don't know, it's a thing that happens. But my brain is often confused about what pronouns to use in those situations as well, and it often results in me accidentally misgendering people. What I do believe though is that there's no reason why you shouldn't use the pronouns that people ask you to use, or avoid using the pronouns that people don't identify with. Refusing to do so just seems like you're being an asshole for no reason. Like, most of us have no problem calling someone something other than what their birth name is if they ask us to. Like, that's the name they identify with, so we call them that. Unless we're like specifically trying to piss them off. But this is complicated by the fact that in English there's no grammatically appropriate gender neutral singular pronoun. And we really need this because, like I said, we can't know someone's preferred pronouns until they tell us. Many things have been proposed, like Z or E, or even more archaic things like Hugh or Thon. And by the way, there's this perception that people are like inventing personalized pronouns to use just for themselves because they're special little snowflakes. And maybe there are some imaginative teenagers on the internet doing that, but really what I think is going on is people are proposing gender neutral pronouns to use for themselves and everyone else. But I think the one that's catching on the most is they, which is useful because it's already a standard English word. And even though it's grammatically dubious, it still sounds natural in most contexts just because of the way we talk. Like if I say something like, I went to my doctor and they told me to take these pills, no one even thinks twice about that. So while I still need to work on my initial impulses, I can still make a conscious effort to not misgender people or not assume people's pronouns when I'm speaking or writing. If in doubt, just call people by their name, and failing that, just use they, and we'll go from there. It can be a challenge to reverse one's conditioning, but just because it's difficult for some of us doesn't mean that we're exempt from making an effort to be respectful. Don't assume my gender has become like kind of a meme now, but it's actually good advice. That's just me though. Thank you for watching my video. There are only a few days left to get the Heiko t-shirt. It'd be really cool if you guys check that out. If you find any value in my videos, or if you just want to support me, consider becoming a patron on Patreon. All of those links will be in the description. And remember to be honest, be assertive, be kind, and be open-minded. Stay Heiko.